So yes, coins, money. How does money develop? You know, if you were world building and you wanted to develop a currency that was based on something, where should you start? So the Japanese mon, the Japanese copper cash coin, was based on a serving of rice. I think this is good. I think this is a great place to start. A coin more or less translating to a meal. You've got 2 coins you can eat for a day. You've only got 1 coin, you're going to be a bit hungry. Now, the downside of this is that you needed a lot of coins. Since each copper coin was like, I don't know, $5 or something like that. I don't know. It would be like the equivalent of like you've got a wallet absolutely stuffed with $5 notes instead of 100, right? So what they would do is they would have strings of coins. There you go, whole strings of them like that. That's about a string of 100 coins. That's the kind of the way that you would transport your cash. You wouldn't have that on you, I imagine. Apparently there was a significant period where for the majority of people it was just easier to trade in rice. Because everyone needs rice, rice keeps quite well. The idea of being like, how much is this worth in days that I would be able to eat? You know, kind of work. Then you have the gold Rio, RWO with the thingy over the top. So their gold coin was worth 3,000, I believe, mon? It may just be 1,000, I'm not sure if I'm reading this right. But, so the different philosophies here, if you're a guy who's looking to go buy lunch, you're using mon, you're using regular copper coin. If you're looking to buy a thing, you're using copper coin. If you're looking to buy a couple of things, you're doing the grocery shopping, you use that. If you're looking to buy a couple of things, you're going to do the groceries, you're using copper coin. If you are a feudal lord looking to purchase significant quantities of, I don't know, something to equip your troops or something with, you're using gold coin. Apparently there were silver coins that were worth maybe 10 copper coins around various times, but from what I'm reading, I don't think they were that popular. Or maybe silver just wasn't as easy to get a hold of. Let's head all the way over to England, so English currency. So a penny, the regular copper coin, was worth... Okay, so a gallon of medium quality ale was worth 1 penny. That's a gallon. So if you were just going for a pint being an eighth of a gallon, what would you do? Interesting. You cut it into eighths. You cut it in half, you cut it in half again, you cut it in half again. They called that a bit. I think a bit might be more equivalent to a mon. That's what a penny gets you in the 14th century. Let's look at what else it gets you in the 14th century. 14th century, 2 chickens and 2 dozen eggs. Or 2 dozen eggs, rather. 6 pennies, a goose. Legal. Why is legal? A cheap sword, just a peasant sword, kind of mass-produced. Also 6 pennies. It's the same as a goose. And they are about the similar amount of dangerous. Of course, in Japan, a sword would be worth significantly more because iron was just far more valuable. But one of the points I'm trying to make here is that a penny wasn't necessarily like a convenient amount of money for you to like go and buy lunch with in the way that a mon was. That's fine because a lot of the times in these sorts of places, you were just running on credit. We've all been keeping track of how many pints you were drinking. Like that was just what people tended to do. If you weren't like actively a merchant, like a shopkeeper or a traveling merchant or something like that, you probably weren't keeping that much cash on you anyway. Anyway, so a mon and a bit being an eighth of a penny might be sort of equivalent. While we're here with the English stuff, a silver piece, the shilling, is 12 pence, the copper pieces. A pound being the gold coin is 20 shillings, which are all 12. So that's 240. That's 240 pence, again times 8, which is... I'm not even going to pretend that I didn't use the calculator. 1,920 bits. So a mon might be something you might think of as like $5, $10 or something like that. A penny might be something like $100, and you'd actually cut that into pieces to pay for, you know, individual things. Interestingly, the Rio and the pound are similar amounts of like in the thousands of the regular coinage. Here's the interesting thing, and I think this is something that can really make a bit of world building seem a lot more real. If you're world building and you're looking to construct a currency system, maybe don't make it convenient. Because from what I'm seeing, it often really wasn't. It was often convenient for what it needed to be convenient for, a mon being, for a serving of rice, makes perfect sense. But in a lot of cases, you didn't need to actually use coins for things that you were probably able to just keep track of on a tab anyway. Which makes sense, because, why would we go to so much effort to mint a bunch of coins, the size of which we can just, keep track in our heads anyway? So if you're going to start world building and think about how, currency works and pricing works and stuff like that, think about what it is that this society needs to keep a track of, or would be convenient to keep a track of. Wait, hang on. 80 pounds of cheese is 3 shillings and 4 pennies, which is, 36 plus 4? That is 40 pennies all up in the late 13th century. Hell yeah. Although, that is also 80 chickens. I don't know. Gaston eating 5 dozen eggs for breakfast every morning. That's 2.5 pennies. Yeah. Now, I do recommend taking some time to really think about this, because just looking at this list, I literally just looked up medieval price list. Just taking a look at this list and what, different things were worth compared to each other really gives an idea of how an economy was faring at the time, what was considered valuable and what wasn't. Now, I was just trying to write a scene where I was like, hey, I've got a paladin sort of character who wants to stay at a inn for 2 weeks, room and board. The amount of research I did into that was just like, oh, this is just a really complicated question that no one super has an answer for. So it comes down to, you got to decide that. I got to just decide. I also kind of had to decide, are there actually going to be inns in this town where there are private rooms? Because there probably wouldn't have been for the setting that I was working with. Probably would have happened would be this paladin sort of a character probably would have stayed with a nobleman, or gone to a particular church and expected room and board. Or alternately, you could not do any of that and just say it was expensive. It was more than I would like to pay. Oh, it was actually reasonably cheap. It's perfectly okay. I am giving everyone permission, in fact, because I know how bloody complicated it can get. I'm giving everyone permission to just avoid actually stating anything at any point. I think that's fair.